Hey everyone, good evening. This is Matt from the Essential Credentials here, and I'm back recording another video. Last night I recorded my YouTube Sports Hall of Fame nominees, which have been well received, and I'm really pleased with the people that I nominated, the channels that I nominated, and I'm quite excited to see who gets, picked for this 2020 year. But I've got a new friend that I've made in the hobby, Brent, who is Near Mint Musings on YouTube, whose channel I will link below, who's asked us to do a 100 subscriber giveaway contest. And I'm really excited about this one because I love telling my PC story. It's especially when it comes to baseball. I do love Dwayne Wade, as you can see behind me. Oh, he's on this side. He's my favorite athlete of all time. But when it comes to baseball, that's why we're here. That's why we do the podcast. And that's why I collect mainly. So I'm going to take you back to when I started collecting and make my way through it rather quickly, but I hope that there's some fun stories along the way. So to start off, Christmas time, 1995, my grandfather shows up from down south, or for us when we're living in Alaska down south, he's from Seattle area, shows up with this My Oh My VHS tape about the Seattle Mariners. Now, I grew up a hockey fan. I grew up playing hockey, so at the time I wasn't playing any other sports. We lived on a lake, and I played hockey there. So he brings me this VHS, and this is an incredible story of this 1995 Seattle Mariners team and all these great players that I, of course, now love. It goes to Ken Griffey Jr., who I knew about prior. I knew he was the man, but I didn't really know. I didn't get to watch them play at all. Living in Alaska, we didn't get the Seattle channels or anything, or ESPN for that matter. So when he brought this video, I learned all about him. Edgar Martinez, Tino Martinez, Jay Buhner, and all the other players, including Joey Cora, who was my first favorite player. Like, I remember seeing him play in that VHS, and I had some hockey cards. I had lots of hockey cards. But from that moment on, hockey was over. And I was like, I'm going to collect Joey Cora cards. So that was kind of the primary focus. I was able to pick up some cards along the way. I mean, this is like going into card shops and getting base cards and being excited about it. That's where I was, at 10 years old, and I loved it. But fast forward to 1997. So 1996 comes and goes. I get some Joey Cora cards. It's awesome. And I go to my first baseball game in 1996. And 96 shows up, season's going on. I get to go to my first baseball game. And my dad takes me to the Mariners versus the Angels. And who'd have thought that the man that hit the only home run in that game was Alex Rodriguez, and in that incredible season that he had. And it was home run number 23 on the season. I don't know if my camera's going to grab this or not. So home run number 23 on the season and on the back, it talks about that it was against the Angels. I'm going to get this to grab it because I want it. There we go. So it was against Mark Langston, in the Kingdom. I remember it quite well. And he hit it to right center field over the tall right field wall that they had. So it was awesome. So A-Rod hits a home run on my first game. I'm falling in love with the Mariners more and more. And I fell in love with my favorite set of all time, 96 Metal Universe, that same summer. And fast forward to Christmas of 96, my dad shows up and he brought like 5 packs of Metal Universe. And, back then that was super exciting for me. And in the first or second pack was this card right here. And I still have it. A Joey Cora base card. Now my camera's going to be all funky, so you have to forgive me on this one. It's not going to show up too well. There it is. So let me look at how cool that design is. This card's been in my possession. It's one of the few cards I still own from back when I was really young. Let's get this camera fixed here. So really excited to own this card. And from there on, I was a diehard Mariners fan, diehard baseball collector. And that was that. So I collected for a little while. And the following year, I go to my first baseball game with my grandpa. And, man, what an incredible time. So in the Kingdom, you could go down to on the third base side, and you line up in this area and ask for autographs. And A-Rod's out there fielding ground balls at short, throwing them across. And there's a bunch of girls in front of him. I've told this story on YouTube, but for Brent, I'll tell it again. There's a bunch of these, women yelling and screaming at him. And even though I was, 12 years old, I got to care less. Probably should have paid more attention, obviously, as a young boy. Things start changing around there. But I just cared about one thing, A-Rod, and I was right behind him. And so he started walking over, and I had my program. And, I'm tall, I got long arms. I just kind of stuck my arm in between a couple people standing in front of me, and he was going along. He signed like 20 things, and off he went. And I've had it ever since, and I got it framed when I was in college, and here it is. So it's pretty cool. There's his autograph right down here. It's actually not faded too bad, all things considered. And it sits on the shelf. Where is it? Behind me? Back over there? You see a space for it. So this is such an amazing time for me, and I'll never forget coming up. My grandfather was sitting in our seats, and he was shaking his head as I was coming up, and I tried to not let him know I got it. And I was trying to keep it to myself, and I sat down, and I opened up the program, and he lost it. So, and all these kids were walking by crying and everything. It was terrible. So, for them at least, but for me it was amazing. So, when I got back into collecting, fast forward to about 4 years ago, 3.5, 4 years ago, it was an easy choice. A-Rod's always been a guy that I loved watching play. He wore my favorite number, and he was same height as me. And he hit exactly how I'd love to hit. And so from that point on, from 3.5 years ago, that's how I decided to collect Alex Rodriguez. So I wanted to make sure that I got that story in there. It's very dear to my heart. My dad took me to a couple games. My grandpa took me to like 3, and we just had a blast. So those memories will never leave me. In the summer of 2001, though, I also really enjoyed watching the Mariners play. They won 116 games. So when I was kind of bottoming out on my A-Rod PC about a year ago, there was not a lot popping up. I decided, I want to go get some Ichiro cards. They were affordable. They still are somewhat affordable. He's about to go into the Hall of Fame like 3 years. Why not? And I remember in 2001, I saw this card right here, the 2001 Fleer EX. Let's see if my camera is going to grab it or not. And I just love the texture, the design on it. Camera's not going to pick it up too well, but I remember this card being just like top notch, and EX was always a set that I loved. So I wanted to make sure that I got this at some point. So when I finally got this card, I was really, really excited, and I built up a pretty good rookie card collection of his, minus the SPX and the Ultimate Victory and the SP Authentic. Right? Ultimate Victory? No, Ultimate Collection. So those 3, other than those 3, I have most of his rookies, and I'm quite excited, and I owe a lot of that to Ray Gerke, I Collect Ichiro, for helping me get there. So thanks again, buddy, for that. So those are my 2 main PCs, but I recently, as you have seen in my video, started a side PC of Rick Ankiel. And the reason I decided to do that is because I have to feel a connection to the guys that I collect. And after I read this book of his, The Phenomenon, which Brent is reading currently, I'm excited about that, and just really learned about his story and everything that he overcame. It's a story of redemption, it really is, and that is why I collect Rick Ankiel. I'm really starting to put a collection of his together. I really enjoy it, and so those are the 3 guys that I collect and why I collect them. So I guess the last reason is, why do I PC the player I do? Because of the memories that you make when you are able to pick up a mega card from the National and celebrate it with your friends, or when you pick up your number 1 want after 2.5 years and your collecting buddies are there to celebrate it with you. That ultimately is another reason that I PC the player that I do, because of the community that I've built up along the way. So Brent, thanks for the video challenge, and I look forward to more of your content, man. Really excited to see what you come up with in the next year, and keep doing what you're doing, man. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.